Welcome back to the channel, Warhammer Man back in the studio, and today we're going to be unboxing the Eldritch Omens new box set. So this box set is not out yet, and this is the first look at what's inside. Before we get started though, I'd like to remind you to make sure to like and subscribe for Warhammer 40,000, Kill Team, Necromunda, Age of Sigmar, and of course warcry content as well. Everything from unboxing and reviews, news when it comes out, and then of course we're a commission-based studio, show off our commissions, and then all kinds of tutorials for conversions, magnetizations, lighting, and of course painting as well. That being said, let's jump right in. So we know we have the new Eldritch Omens, Chaos versus the Aeldari coming out here. And this is our first look at what's officially inside. Now, obviously, we know the contents of the box, but we're going to get a deep dive here. So we have the Maulerfiend, Forgefiend. We have 5 Chaos Chosen, all new sculpts for the Chosen. And then we have the Tech Marine for the Chaos. We have 3 shroudrunner jet bikes, which are basically like 2 Aeldari on a jet bike with a scout sort of sniper on the back. And then we have 5 rangers, which are the scouts with sniper rifles. And then of course we have the Autarch as well. But now we're actually going to get to see what the sprues look like and the options inside. So here are the models. We've already seen these before. This is one of the variants for the Autarch. And then we have the 5 rangers with their little statue and a couple different poses demonstrated here. Just for a note, we see one is like him deploying this sort of drone thing with the sniper kind of tucked at his side. The other one is him kind of holding the sniper up at rest. And then he has sort of like a scope or binoculars in one hand. And then we see a couple more like traditional poses. And then again, for the rangers as well, we see one scouting with the binoculars and no helmet. And then we see 2 with helmets, one kind of bearing down his scope and one just more casually looking. And then if we just go down here and take a look, we see the Chosen, one with lightning claws, one with a power sword and pistol, one with axe and plasma pistol, one with a mace and bolter at his side, and then of course we see a plasma combi gunner. And the reason I'm going into detail is when we actually look at the sprues, we'll be able to see that they're actually going to be multi-part or option sprues. So pretty cool. So here is our, man, why can't I think of his name all of a sudden? This is the Chaos Tech Marine. Of course, I am drawing a blank like usual, but he has his axe, a bunch of like the mecha dendril tendon metal type things going on, the Dr. Octopus suit, and then of course a plasma pistol. And then the Forgefiend Maulerfiend is the same kit as before and can build both. So we've seen all the miniatures, but you probably wondering what the sprues look like. Everything this set comes with loads of customization options. Both leaders have a range of heads, war gear, and weaponry. Having walked many different warrior paths, the Autarch can select weaponry from a range of aspect shrines, including a Banshee mask and a warp sweater jump generator. The Warpsmith, meanwhile, has more brutish armaments. So we kind of knew that already about the Autarch. We've seen a bunch of his options, but let's take a closer look at the sprue. So here we see a fusion blaster. Here we see the one head with the double plumes on the side. Here's his backpack banner. We see a scorpion chainsword. Here we see a more, I guess, like traditional style helmet with sort of a fancy like a metal plume on top or whatever plume on top. And then here we see a warp spider jump generator, a Reaper missile launcher, and then of course our body, our base. These are the 2 different options for the chest plate. One is female, the other is male. We see a spear, obviously a cloak, a bear head, and then a warp spider monofilament blaster. That's probably not the right name for it, but you know what I'm talking about. And then of course just a regular old shuriken pistol. So quite a few options, all of which we have previously seen. And then if we look at the Warpsmith, that's the one. So here we see an initial head option. Can't quite tell what that one is because it's facing the other way. It looks like just a helmeted head. And then we have a little bit for the base. The majority of his body right here. There is his other leg. And then of course this is the back half of his body also. And then we see a bunch of his extra little stuff hanging down here to plug into vehicles. Here is the harness with all the extra little claws and whatnot, the Dr. Octopus suit. And then weapon-wise, we see this is the plasma pistol with a bionic arm here. We see 3 different shoulder pad options for like 3 completely different styles. I like those. And then we see a axe handle. And then it can be either the axe or it looks like a hammer. And then this looks like the tip of the hammer. So he basically has an axe or a hammer option. And then here we see a bear head as well. And then it looks like we'll have some different little kind of tentacle like tips. So overall, not a ton of options with him, but a couple options for us. So again, nice looking models though. And then if we dive in here further, we have the Eldari Rangers and Shroudrunners. So let's take a closer look. So here we have with the Ranger sprue. So each one of these sprues, there's 3 of them total. We know there are 5 Rangers in the set. So for the most part, we're going to have 2 Rangers on each of the sprues and then 1 on the last sprue. So if we figure these are our 2 backs right here, these are the 2 fronts. We see a couple different poses, and then we see 1, 2, 3 sniper rifles, and we see 2 of the little sort of like drone deployment devices. Not sure exactly what those are yet. We see quite a few head options. 1, 2 here. There is 1 here as well. 3. So quite a few of those. I'm probably missing some, maybe 4. I can't tell quite what that is. But overall, it looks like quite a few options here. There's our other set of legs. So definitely some different poses. We know like the one, there's the rifle where he has it kind of tucked in his shoulder and he's deploying the drone. Here we have one more dynamic of a pose. And then this one is double-handed holding the rifle. We see here it looks like a knife hand, kind of holding a knife. And then if we look at our other sprue here, again, this should build 2 Rangers with this sprue. So we see 2 backs. We see 2 sets of legs. We see a chest plate here and another chest plate here. So that is 2 full guys. And then we see, or girls, I should say. And then we see 1, 2 heads here at least. Probably some more. I only see 2 heads on here. And then rifle-wise, we see 1 rifle in a like backpack or just kind of like tucked away, which is pretty cool. And then we see a knife hand. We see 1 being held in 2 hands. We see a binocular here. We see a pistol here. So it looks like you could do like a pistol and knife build with the rifle on your back, which is pretty cool. Or we have like more traditional, obviously, builds as well. Here's like the empty, like kind of sheath for the rifle. It's probably not the right term, but you know what I mean. And then we see like a little pistol hand and stuff. So definitely some cool options. You'll be able to easily make, you know, much more than 5 of these and make them all look different. I think you could easily make 10 or 20 of these without having like any of them look the same. Start getting probably redundant after that. But then here we see this is the Exarch sprue, or leader of the squad, I should say. So we see our legs, front and back here. We see a sheathed pistol that he looks like he's getting ready to pull out. A bunch of extra head options here. So we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this looks like this is where all the extra heads are at. We see another pistol in this hand. We see a sheath rifle right here. We see our little statue here. So definitely some nice options. Nice to have a closer look at that. The thing I'm really looking forward to seeing is the Chaos models, though, the Chosen, and their options. Because I know there was a lot of speculation that, 1, they looked a lot like the old Chosen models, and 2, that they were going to be easy to build. We see here now that these are not easy to build kits. They are like fully multi-pose kits. Now they're not as multi-pose as some things have been in the past, where it's basically just a ball and socket and you can just put whatever you want. But we see that you know, there's tons of options, which is what really matters. And if this is what gets us better quality miniatures, I think that's the most important thing, is the overall quality of the completed miniature, not the ability to literally have, you know, 30 guns that are all universally able to swap, or arms or whatever. So each of these is a, well, we have 3 Shroud Runners in the set. So it looks like we're going to have all 3 of them on these 2 sprues. So it's going to be tough to kind of pick out all the details here. But sniper rifle wise, we see 1 sniper right here. We see a 2nd rifle right here. And then we see a 3rd and a 4th rifle here. So we'll have a couple different options for the actual snipers themselves. We see a couple of the front torsos right here. Maybe a 3rd front torso there. Possibly a 4th here. It's tough to tell if it's the front or the back, to tell you the truth. We see a couple backs, a bunch of legs. Looks like there's going to be quite a few options here. A bunch more backs, a bunch more legs. Yeah, it looks like there's plenty of options here. Gun-wise, for the actual jet bikes themselves, I can't quite make out where the main weapons are. I feel like we saw a couple of twin shuriken guns, like underslung, and then also a shuriken cannon. But to tell you the truth, just kind of glancing at this, I really don't see them on here, so must just be missing them. But overall, again, very nice looking. And then here we have what I was really looking for, our chaos sprues. So we have, to start off with, there's 2 big sprues for the chaos. And this is going to make 5 guys. So I'm assuming the bodies will be overall posed how they're going to be, and then there'll be like a bunch of additional weapon and options, and that's exactly what it looks like. So we see here is one rear, a second rear of a body, that's the front of a body, that's the front of the body. So it looks like there are 2 guys on this sprue right here. We see one backpack with like a big spinal cord coming down it. We see one with like the more traditional tongue coming down the middle. So these are definitely modeled after some of the older models, but unique in their own right. Shoulder pad wise, we see a couple cool shoulder pads here, a couple more here, another one here. So that's 5 shoulder pads. We see 6, 7. So we see a bunch of shoulder pad options. We have an obvious cape right here. Weapon wise, we're seeing a ton of stuff. We have a pretty awesome looking power axe right here, definitely unique. We see a power sword right here with some cool like serrated edges on it. Here we see a chaos chainsword. Very, very nice. And then a chainsword that's kind of like tucked away for now. And then it looks like that's it for the combat weapons on the sprue. And then gun wise, we see a tentacle grasping a bolter right here. So you can do like a little mutation action. We see a power fist actually right here as well. We see a traditional bolter, and then we see quite a few options for a combi weapon as well. So here's a plasma pistol and bolt pistol. And then for the combi weapon, we see the bottom portion of the combi weapon here, and then we see that there is a plasma combi, a melta combi, or a flamer combi available. So it looks like these can be built pretty much to spec any way you like. And then for our second sprue here, now this is curious because it looked like there's only bodies for 2 guys on this one, unless I'm missing something. There's a back, there's a front. That's probably a whole guy with a backpack. And then there's a back, there's a front. Okay, so it looks like we have 3 guys on this sprue right here. So there's another leg, and then there must be a chest plate somewhere that I didn't notice. So it looks like this is to make 3 guys right here. Yeah, okay, and then there's a third backpack. So yeah, that's the first 3, and then this is the second 2, including the champion. Okay, so here we see the power mace or maul. We see another kind of tucked away chainsword. We see a pretty awesome chain axe, another chainsword here, a pair of lightning claws, one more chain axe here as well. This looks like a power fist. We see weapon-wise for the guns, quite a bit as well. Plasma pistol here. We see our combi options. That's the melta. Here's a regular bolt gun with the tentacle again. We see the flamer, the plasma. We see the bottom half of the combi weapon here. A bolt pistol. Another bolt gun right here as well. We see a bunch of various head options and some iconography. And then shoulder pad wise, this one looks like it has a little something extra going on. Maybe the spikes go on that shoulder pad. So here we see 2 shoulder pads, 3, 4 shoulder pads. So maybe not quite as many shoulder pad options as I thought, now that I know the first one has 3 guys on it, but they look pretty awesome. And then obviously if you're doing specific to your faction, you'll have some of your own faction shoulder pads as well. And it looks like this would be pretty compatible with a lot of the other kits as well. So you can kind of swap some of your bits out with, say, like Death Guard or Khorne Berserkers. Let's hope they get a new kit eventually. A bunch more heads here as well. Overall, looking really nice. This is a great set. This is, to tell you the truth, only seeing the one pose of these guys, I was a little skeptical that they were going to be like fully multi-pose, but I had a feeling they would be. But also the way that the Space Marines and the Chaos sets came initially in a box against each other, and then they basically divided that up, and that became the start collecting boxes. And then for the Space Marines, they eventually just added a tank, and that became the combat patrol for the Primaris bros. So seeing this now and knowing there's tons and tons of options is really nice, because that means we're not going to get that same setup. So if these later on get branched out and then become the combat patrol or start collecting boxes or whatever with a couple of additions, we know that at least they're going to be nice kits. Now the other stuff was nice, but it didn't have the same multi-pose or multiple options. I know some people want like only the multi-pose kits. I get it. They're fun. You can do a lot of stuff with them. But this is all made of plastic. It's easy to cut up and change. I like the way these sets are made. I don't mind that only certain bits can go in certain places, as long as you can have a ton of different options for what goes where. So as long as we can swap out arms, I don't mind if the overall torso and body and stuff is the same. I don't mind if there's a couple less backpacks to choose from, as long as we get plenty of heads and plenty of equipment options. So it looks like basically, depending on the current rules or if we're getting a new codex or whatever, it looks like we basically can build a chosen squad out of these 5 bros that could be either exclusively hand-to-hand combat, or we could do exclusively, more shooty looking guys, with a couple of combi weapons, a couple of plasma pistols, and then obviously like a champion, with a little more combat oriented. Looks like we have a ton of options here. So this is very nice to see. Definitely nice to see the deep dive and see the sprues up close and the options. And then it says, beyond that, the Maulerfiend, which can also be built as the Forgefiend, and 2 generous transfer sheets, Craftworlds and Heretic Astartes, with 379 and 364 transfers, respectively. These include the emblems of the major Craftworlds and unaligned Chaos Legions. So I was kind of joking around about the transfer sheets and the way they spun it, because they're not like, oh, and 2 new transfer sheets. They're like talking about the individual amount of transfers that come on the sheets, and over 700 new transfer sheets, but 16 models. But I just thought it was funny. But don't get me wrong, it is nice to see new transfer sheets coming out, especially if there's some new stuff on them. They look like a lot of the old stuff, maybe a little more detailed. But it's nice to just have some fresh transfers. I do use transfers. I do use micro soul and micro set. They work phenomenally and go on the models very nicely, so you don't have to freehand details. And also, they have like a seamless blend in there, and then you can go back through and kind of weather them appropriately. I do love transfers. I highly recommend you check out my micro soul and micro set video for applying transfers. I've put them on like a bunch of the Custodes vehicles, as well as just regular Space Marines, etc. And if you do it right, they look amazing. If you just do it with water right off the sheet and you don't spend a ton of time, they're not going to look amazing, but you can kind of weather them up and make them look good. If you buy a little micro soul or micro set, it's going to last you for your whole lifetime. You're going to spend like 10 or 15 bucks on it, and you're going to be the transfer master, because it literally like makes them melt onto your model to where they look like they were painted on, but much better than you could probably ever do. So that is it for the deep dive here. Overall, I have to say these are really nice sets. I think this further sort of reinforces what this set is going to cost on its own when it comes out, like these models. I think because of the options we're seeing, obviously the Maulerfiend is 75 bucks. All the Space Marine characters are basically like $35 a piece, so we can safely assume that's what's going to happen. And then these 5 dudes are going to look like a veteran squad when they come out, so I suspect they're going to be like 45 to like 50 bucks. So when it's all said and done, I think the Chaos half at 75 and 35, we're talking about 110, and then this is probably going to be, let's say 45, so that's 155. So this whole set is 170, and then, obviously you don't want to give $15 to the transfer sheet, I get it, but the Chaos side has basically already paid for the price of the set if you were going to buy all 3 of these units. And then as far as the Aeldari, I think it's pretty safe to say these are probably going to run 50 to 60 bucks. I would say 60 because it's 3 vehicles and 2 people on each vehicle. Maybe they won't be quite that much, but I suspect it's going to be 60 bucks for the 3 of them. The Autarch is probably going to be 35, so that is 95. And then again, the 5 Rangers with all the options and everything, I think realistically we're talking about like 45 bucks here. So I think you're getting about $140 worth of Eldar. I wouldn't be surprised if any of those prices are off by $5 or $10 on the box sets, but I suspect that's right around where it's at. So if you say roughly, let's say 140 for the Eldar, and let's say roughly 160 for the Chaos, we're talking about like $300 worth of minis. Let's not count any value towards the transfers or like the books or anything that come inside, but you're talking about roughly $300 worth of Games Workshop retail value. And then also these books will have early access to the rules. Looks like not that early for the Eldar, just because the Codex looks like it's coming right down the pipe. And the Chaos book is still the old book, but maybe we'll see some new rules inside here as well. But there's always some cool missions and some art and some background. Again, assuming we don't give any value to the transfers or the book, we are looking at essentially $300 worth of retail minis in this set for 170, so almost half price. I think that is a great deal, and early access to the models. Now, the model count is not phenomenal, but the actual quality of them is absolutely great. So, well, that's the wrap up for today. Just wanted to take a deeper dive now that we can see what's inside the box. I will definitely be picking this up, and it will be the start of my Eldar army, and perhaps sometime in the near future, chaos will start to reign once again. I do have quite a bit of chaos already, but they've kind of been sitting on the back burner for, well, let's be honest, they're lost in the warp. But that's it for today. If you liked the video, I would love to hear about your comments, your input. What do you think? Are we missing some options that you would have liked to see? Are we getting a lot more options than you were expecting? Did you want to see fully multi-pose kits? Do you mind that they're not just push-fit models? Do you like all the extra options? Is this a great deal? Is this a terrible deal? Am I completely biased and all you're going to do is just 3D print everything forever and Games Workshop sucks? You're entitled to your opinion. Leave it down below. You guys know how I feel. I love a sweet blend of 3D printing and Games Workshop minis as well. I find that, a nice balance in your life of anything, including models and 3D printing, is the way to go. But that is my opinion. That's it for today. Warhammer Man Studios. If you're into this kind of content, reactions, reviews, and all kinds of tutorials, unveiling of commissions, etc., make sure you like and subscribe for Warhammer 40,000, Kill Team, Necromunda, Age of Sigmar, and of course, warcry content as well. That's it for today, Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and I'm out of here.